So that's what I have. Questions?
Can you talk a little bit more about Pullman?
I can, but there's others in the room who can correct me. And this particular place is a town where George Pullman established his factory in the early 1880s, trying to get away from the working class foment in the city of Chicago, and also trying to spread out the operations of his plant. Ultimately, they went across 103rd Street and south of 115th Street. So there was plenty of land here. There was a sort of perception that all this marsh stuff, what's it good for? Well, we can dump slag on it, we can build plants, we can spread out. So by the 1882, the model town, as it was called, was constructed south of 111th and also north of 107th here, with everything you would think that you would need in life, or that's what he thought. Within 10 years or so, labor relations had deteriorated to the point where there was a major strike in this location, the founding of the American Railway Union, the rise to prominence of Eugene Debs, and ultimately Pullman had to kind of back away from the paternalism that marked the early parts of the community. The plant closed in 1980, I think, and the community is on the National Register of Historic Places. Landscape architecture by Nathan Barrett, and the physical buildings were designed by Mark Bouman. Very influential place in urban planning, labor history, and political history of the United States. And of course, the history of Chicago and the history of the Civil Rights Movement for the work that Philip Randolph did with the Brotherhood of Pullman Carporters. Yes? The restoration plans. So that's worth elaborating on a little bit. There's the city of Chicago really did an about-face on the airport thing. The uses of adversity really were, with facing an airport, a lot of folks thought, you know what, this is not the, and the airport was being sold partly as, this region is just a mess, this is the best we can think of. What it did is it brought out and coalesced a lot of the voices of folks who said, you know what, there's so much that this area has, we just need to get it together in a positive way. So that brought together a lot of that. In the meantime, the city did do an about-face, and there actually is a Calumet land use plan, which includes an open space reserve plan, and more parcels of land are gradually going back into public hands and are being worked on. Once they got them, people started saying, oh yeah, we need to put bird viewing stands and paths and bike paths and so forth. And then they realized, whoa, there's a lot of science that actually needs to be done to inform what happens. That period is, and the first phase of it is coming to an end, and now restoration work is going forward. Places like Beaubien Woods that Laurel mentioned, Hegwish Marsh at 130th and 134th and Torrance, which is where the Fort Calumet Center is supposed to be. Other areas that are now in public hands, Indian River Marsh, Van Vlissingen Marsh. These were all 15 years ago in many hundreds of different private hands. There is a vigorous group of stewards and also environmental educators, and I'd like to point out the work that the Calumet Stewardship Initiative does to bring that conversation together. Their office I showed you is in Hegwish, 30th in Baltimore. Kevin Murphy and Joanne Podko here lead that group. And if you remember that word, you can Google it. CalumetStewardshipInitiative.org, and see a lot of the individual work that's happening in the area.
It's the other CSR.
It's the other CSI, that's right. Oh, this is the land of acronyms. Other questions? Or, yes? So this, in that particular work, the city's Department of Environment has been an excellent partner on much of this work of the last 15 years. In fact, they're co-sponsor of this event right here. And they have put a lot of resources, and they have a couple of people detailed to Calumet projects. And so it's been both work that they've done to try to gather the funds and funds from federal and state sources to help with the restoration work, but also they've done just a great job with getting the word out about what's happening here. So the Department of Environment in particular has been the key piece. And you know what? The mayor, I have to say, the story is he had some kind of a conversion and became a very interested in green projects. And in that overall thing, which is part of his overall pitch for the city of Chicago, Calumet projects play a very important role in moving the city through its period of deindustrialization to something that comes next. There was a young man.
What was the Lake Powderhorn?
Oh, Lake Powderhorn actually is probably the highest quality, and I didn't mention that. Laura, do you want to say something about it, Laura? It's off of Brainerd and just east of Avenue O.
Yeah, it is one of the richest areas biologically, owned by the Forest Preserve District of Cook County, and has recently been given the highest conservation status possible in this state. It's a dedicated Illinois nature preserve. It has a really active group of volunteers from the community that are out there multiple times a month working on getting rid of the invasive species, helping to monitor some of the rare plants. It's got some wonderful plants like prickly pear cactus is one of the species that you can find there. And people are often surprised to think that that's a plant of the Chicago region, but it also has beautiful orchids and lilies and milkweeds and grasses, and I really recommend going there multiple times a year. And we have high school kids, well, not just high school kids, we have a lot of students from the Calumet region that have adopted that to do their service learning, their 40 hours required service learning that every CPS student needs to graduate, and Timby project,
Is my backyard, right?
and the Mighty Acorns, which are the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders in Calumet schools. A lot of them are doing their Mighty Acorn stewardship work at that side in Hickorswoods and a few other ones. So it's becoming very much a beloved place of the students here. And I think the fishermen.
And I alluded to Fishing Buddies in that last slide too, which is another group that works at Bobian Woods. And the idea there is taking a kid fishing. It's especially in the African American community to the east of us here, and is both through mentoring and acquaintance with the environment, so that kids aren't left indoors all the time. Try to use the environment in broader educational and social purposes.